Hey, welcome to episode number 2 of tOP, or the Obery Project's Criminal Justice. This series, for me, it's more of a pressure release from a lot of the normal work that I do day in and day out, which can get pretty tedious. So this actually helps because these things that I'm talking about, they're things that I've been through. They're things that I've seen. They're things that I have personally experienced and things that I've done. I've lived a few lives in different ways, in different circumstances, and so I'm hoping some of this will be beneficial. Now, I'm not, and I haven't, not first, I will never claim that I have more intimate knowledge of behaviors, the way people act in various prisons and things that you should, and I'm not going to give advice like that because I've never been to prison. I never went down to prison. I've been in and out of at least, I've been arrested and incarcerated at least 13 times, and I've been in and out of at least 7 jails. I would say, yeah, that's pretty fair. But I have seen a lot, and the last stretch that I did, now it's about 10 years ago, but it was 14 months at county level. Anybody who has done county time knows how difficult it is to do county time, especially when you're fighting a case county time. So it's not the easiest thing in the world. And, this isn't necessarily for the people who have been in and out of a lot of institutions, especially from the time that they're really young. This is more for if for some reason you should happen to end up in jail. And as I said in the last video, most people you're going to end up in jail by surprise. It's pretty rare that you see it coming. For one thing, like, if there's, an indictment or a warrant or anything like that, they're not going to advertise it. And they don't want you to run. They want you to stay right where you're at, where they know you're at, so they can come get you easily because they don't want to do any more work than they have to. So I'm just saying it's going to be by surprise, and most of mine were by surprise. As I said last time, there was only one time I can remember where I knew there was a warrant, and I had the money, surprisingly, that time, had the money where I could call a certain lawyer who could get my case taken out of a certain judge's court that nobody with the sort of case and then the history I had wanted to be in this woman's court. And this was his ex-wife. Conflict of interest, you could call him, and it would get taken immediately out of her court. If you hired him, you were out of her court. Beautiful. But that was a one time. Then he told me, go into jail, take your money, and what you'll do, you'll get, it'll be an immediate bond. They'll know. And a lot of times at lawyers, they can call the jail. They can make sure everything's going to go smoothly for you to get in, pay him, the bond, because you have a set bond. If there's a warrant, a lot of times there is a set bond. Turns out, my sister tells me the state of Illinois is going to be dropping that, I guess, as of 2023, this upcoming year. They're going to be dropping bond. And I wasn't sure what she meant, but what she told me was, so if you got picked up, like I knew a lot of people who'd get picked up in Cook County. And what they would do a lot of times, not all the time, but the cops, depending on what kind of charge they're picking you up or whatever, sometimes they would release you on site. Sometimes they might give you a beating or humiliation or something like that and tell you to get out of the city, and they don't want to catch you in the city again. Sometimes they take you to Cook County Jail. And depending on the kind of charge it is, I mean, there were people who, like, say they were caught with a couple of bags of heroin. Maybe not a bunch, There were times when they would bring them in, they had a cell where they'd put them in the cell, or they'd go in there with them, and they would watch them dump all their bags so that they didn't have anything left. And they would still make them go through booking, but then they would be released. It would just be an OR, I believe they called it OR, which is your own recognizance. You don't have to pay any money or anything. They're just going to book you through, and you're out. Now, I guess they aren't going to have, as far as 2023 goes, they're not going to have your own recognizance. And what they're going to do, and this, to me, this spells something not good on the horizon. So what they're going to do is, everybody who comes through there in the state of Illinois, not just Cook County, but Cook County gets the majority because it's, Chicago. There's not going to be a specific stated bond for a specific stated charge, like there often is in most other jurisdictions. It sounds like what they want to do is you get brought in for any charge, no bond on any charge until you see the judge. And then what it sounds like is when you see the judge, they're going to decide whether A, you need to remain incarcerated until you're, go to court, try, plea out, whatever, or if you just need to be released. Now, on the surface, boy, I don't know. I don't know how the people of Illinois feel about that. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of them that think that's great, because a lot of people who might be in and out of there would know that there's a lot of charges they're going to be brought in on. They're just going to be released. And then they're going to go through the whole system of, you got to report here, you got to do this class, you're probably going to get sentenced to this many hours of community service and do this class and pay this fine and all that stuff. But for a lot of them, it's going to be a little strange too, because maybe a lot of them who could have afforded bond, the judge might decide that they're not getting bond. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to go, because it seems like potentially, just like with all these releases that were done in 2019, and everybody knows what the pretext was for releasing people in 2019 from a number of prisons, and it was nonsense. It looks like there's the potential for something bad like that, as like a precedence, so one state does it, and no matter if politicians or whomever, the newspaper, and they're all on the same team, cry foul, all you got to do is get that legislation passed once, and then it settles a little bit, and then people forget, and then other people do it, other states do it, other jurisdictions do it. I don't know. I can't see that that's going to lead to something good. So, anyways, this episode is going to be about talking to the cops. Now, I said last time, again, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an expert in anything, and anything I say herein should not be construed as legal or any other professional advice. I'm simply telling you things that have happened to me, things that I've done, or things that I've seen, and how they work out. I guess you can draw your own conclusions, because this is going to come from the very first time that I got arrested. That, I've never really, except for one time for a few hours when I was underage, sat in a jail. Wasn't even a cell. They put us all in one of their rooms, one of their block, concrete rooms. Not even a cell, for a few hours, and our parents got us. This is underage drinking, so it's not going to jail. So I'd never really been to jail or anything like that, in any trouble. The first time I was arrested and taken to jail, and then taken to the county annex from the jail. That was an experience, your first time out. To every other time past that, when I've been arrested or had opportunity to talk to police or feds. Yes, there was one time that I had to talk to the feds over something that was really messed up. And hopefully there's a good lesson in that too. Or special agents, because I also had an opportunity at one of my arrests to potentially cooperate with the Porter County Drug Task Force. And these guys are essentially the DEA of Porter County. They are the ones who basically round up a snitch stable. And to be honest, have I seen the drug problem improve in Porter County, Indiana since? No. No. And they have a lot of programs in Porter County. So the thing about Porter County, Indiana, it's the second county over from the Illinois state line. So you basically got, like your suburbs right there at the state line. And then you go up north just a touch, and you've got Cook County, you got Chicago. And, a lot of kids with money, not just kids, young people with money, or a lot of blue-collar people that have money to spend, they could either pay more from people that are bringing drugs from Cook County to Porter County, or they could go up there themselves. So there's a lot of going backs and forth. And the funny thing is, Porter County is second as far as like the money that's in Porter County, Indiana. It's like second to Marion County. Marion County is Indianapolis. That's state capital. Second. Not completely a surprise, because you have Bethlehem Steel, Burns Harbor, and a number of other industries there. So that's a lot of money that brings in, and there's a lot more there than that too. So you do have a lot of people and their kids and that don't have any direction in their life, because this culture, the educational system, media, culture, has not put any depth of meaning in people's lives. And so the propensity to buy and use drugs or engage in deviant behavior has just gone up and up and up and up and up and up, to where a lot of people who might not have some time ago, perhaps, do. And it's a serious problem in Porter County. Like, it's a serious epidemic problem in Porter County. Like, when I left there, after I was done with my last long stint in that county jail, the deaths per year from just heroin or opiate overdose was pretty high. It was pretty high. It was a lot, let's say it was a lot higher than a little county like Porter County wanted. And it didn't look good. For one thing, on paper, it didn't look good. And a lot of the people who are paying attention, a lot of people who've lost their kids, want to know why in the hell this is happening. And I think a lot of the problems, of course, are at home, and how much attention people are giving their children or are giving themselves in their own lives and their own pursuits and their own wants. And when they're not willing to do that, they want the state to do something, and then the state's answer is not better. And, there's a certain amount of pacification, so on and so forth, that happens, and it's all a very bad cycle. So, talking to cops. Now, this is not like talking to cops like telling on other people. First off, as a rule, I've never told on anyone. Never. The thought has never crossed my mind, in all the trouble I've ever been in, to tell on somebody to maybe reduce my time or get some kind of deal or get back out on the street. As sick as I've been many times in jail, either already dope sick, which is opiate or heroin withdrawals, or knowing I was going to be, never told on anyone. So basically this is about, is talking to the police and the detectives and all that a good idea? Is it going to help you, or is it not going to help you very much? So the first time I ever got picked up and incarcerated for real was down in Florida. It was Polk County, Florida, where I was living at the time, because my somewhat newly ex-wife basically told me that the attorney said that I couldn't afford attorney. She could, because her parents hired some real scumbag attorneys from Porter County. And she told me that they said that she can move out of the state and there wasn't anything I was going to be able to do about it. Now, I couldn't afford an attorney. I couldn't afford to talk to an attorney on the phone. And the thing is, it wasn't my interest to go to war with her. It was my interest to try to stay married to her. We had a daughter at the time. We still do. My interest was to stay together, a family. Hers was not. And anyways, so she moved down there. I wanted to be near my daughter and her. So I moved down there. And that was rough. Didn't have any real resources or anything. Getting down there was pretty tough. So by the time I got down there, here's the thing. So we would still have, for some time after I moved down there, like a very on-again, off-again sort of relationship. And then at a certain point, it was getting difficult because she was being facilitated, again, by her parents. And they know that's, if they had watched this, they know that's exactly what they were doing. She was being facilitated to live in a way that was kind of over and above what I could do, struggling as I was trying to find work, and found just terrible work at that time, having a hard time. And so she was getting involved with this group of friends and everything, and staying the night at different places and stuff, which bothered me because, for one thing, you know, we had a daughter and she's out spending the night in places. And the thing was, it's not like she was her own, well, she was her own person. No, we were having an on-again, off-again kind of thing. And there were a lot of times when I had a lot of hope that we would be able to mend things. So it wasn't like that. So what happened was, after a few arguments, nothing ever happened, nothing ever transpired physically like that. Nothing like that ever happened. Not with me and anyone. I have had, with all the women I've ever known or been in relationships, a couple of physical confrontations where I restrained them. Not hit them or anything like that. There was a restraining. So, nothing like that happened. But she decided what she needed was a restraining order. Now, who gave her that advice? Did she come up with it on her own? I don't know. So she got that. I was summoned to court, because usually when you have something like that, both parties have to appear. I appeared. Well, here's the thing. Not long after that happened, I don't know how long it was after that happened, we're talking again. We're seeing each other again. I'm not kidding. But she has this restraining order on the books, and I went to court. I affirmed it. So one time, whatever, she's out having a good time or whatever, and I try to call her. We didn't have cell phones at this time. This was it's 2001. We didn't have cell phones. So I had to go to a phone, payphone, Tried to call her, couldn't get a hold of her. Finally got a hold of her. And there was a bit of an argument. And so I made a huge mistake. I mean, if I was then me now, never would have done this. I went over there because I wanted to talk to her. She hung up on me. Mistake. Now, again, nothing got, violent, but it was heated. We had a heated argument. She kept telling me, you have to leave, you have to leave. I'm going to call the police. Yeah, I'm going to call the police. Should have left. She called the police. Now, here's the thing. She called the police, hung up the phone when they answered. She didn't talk to him. She just called, hung up the phone because she decided not to. But if I would have known what I know now, I would have left. Immediately left. Because they respond to all calls. It doesn't matter if somebody says anything or not. A call comes in, they're going to send a black and white out. So they came out. They showed up. By the time they showed up, we're actually talking. I'm holding my daughter outside of her townhome that she was being rented by her parents. Rented her a 2-story, duplex kind of, townhome in these apartments. The townhomes in the back, the nicer ones. So anyways, I'm standing there holding my daughter, and they come and they start saying, well, what's this? What's going on here, there, whatever. We got a call from here, did you? And basically, she said, well, I did, but then I didn't. I didn't think I needed to. I hung up the phone, so on and so forth. So at that point, once you give them that phone call, they are going to come. They're going to question everybody who is there. And most times, somebody's going to get arrested. And it's usually going to be the guy. I don't care what it is. If it's a domestic and the neighbor called or whatever else, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the guy. That's not always. And the woman, they often get arrested too, but just saying, that's the way it goes. So, should I have talked to them when they came up and asked, well, what's going on? What's, this happened and that happened and the other? To be honest, no, I don't think I should have. I mean, she could have, say whatever she wanted to say. That's fine. I shouldn't have said a thing. Nothing. I'll be honest with you. I should have said nothing. Because, of course, what they do is, and they did this on site that time, they'll tell you, don't lie to us. Don't get caught lying to us. If you lie to us, and then they'll start threatening you with all kinds of, you lie to us, we can do this and this and this and this. And you have to be smart. You have to think. And sometimes it can be difficult because if you haven't been arrested before, you haven't dealt with the cops before, trying to keep calm, think, what's the best thing to do right now? What have they got? They're threatening me. What does this mean? What should I do? But I was young, I was inexperienced, hadn't been arrested, not a real arrest. In that case, because I told him who I was, I told him the situation. In fact, both her and I made up a story when we saw that they were pulled in. Because things were smoothed out. We had argued, and we stopped arguing. I told you when they pulled up, we're standing outside. I'm holding my daughter. We both decided, we're going to say this to try to make it seem like no big deal. It didn't matter. It didn't matter to them. They could have showed up and they could have listened to our story. No, he's just here because he was concerned about this and that, and it's my daughter lives here too, and it's no big deal. Both of us, her too, said that. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. They had someone who was breaking a restraining order by being within a certain distance of said, boom. Now, what happened was after we talked to him, because both her and I are trying to get me out of getting arrested and going to jail by this point in time. So finally, after talking to them a little bit, then we both admit, well, no, it was an argument, but it wasn't anything like, there was nothing physical, there was no threat or anything like that. She was angry, upset, she wanted to make me leave at first, of course, that's why. And then they said to me, this is what the cop said to me, and the cop who said this to me, you are a liar. You're a liar. The cop said to me, well, if you would have told us the truth in the first place, this might have went different. Bullshit, you're a liar. The cop who arrested me, by the way, he's not watching this. He's not going, I don't think he'll ever watch this. Liar. Pants on fire. Now, so I say in that situation, it was a bad idea. It's a bad idea. I shouldn't have said anything. Like, literally, you gotta understand something. Most of the time, they're going to make an arrest. Especially if they have any cause, reason that they could apply to the situation to make an arrest. Don't, please don't ever think you're going to be the guy who is the one who gets away. They're going to decide this was no big deal. They're going to decide, nothing bad happened. They're going to be okay. They're going to let me go. If that happens, I'm sure that's probably happened like here and there. It's not going to happen to you. Don't ever assume you're going to be the one that can talk yourself out of it. Don't. Do not. That's a huge mistake. Now, the second time I had to talk to the cops, they were feds. Some feds showed up at the same address, by the way. I was over at her house. We were hanging out. Should tell you that, no, there was no bad blood there. There was a lot of playing around, as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, I was there. I had just left a job where I was at, where the owners were not, I hate to say J-E-W, they were Ashkenazim, okay? Well, the thing is, I was told that within, a few days after I left, that somebody called in some kind of a threat. I don't know what kind. They didn't tell me. I don't think they told me. I don't care, because I don't think nothing ever happened, as far as I know. Nothing ever did. But the problem was, I worked with a few, two things. One thing, I worked with douchebags. Second thing, because a job like that, and it was in graphics, so I had one certain job where I did a certain amount of graphics for just color vinyl, like calendared vinyl that would be in certain specific colors. It would get plotted, which is cutting, and then it would get weeded for certain specific jobs. You have different kinds of vinyl. You can print vinyl for fleet graphics, or this kind of vinyl, which is just one color. It gets plotted, certain shapes, because there's these programs, these graphic programs in the sign business, where you can put together like a logo, and a lot of people would design logos with one color or just two colors so they could spot, not print, but plot the different parts of the logo, cut out of the vinyl. You would weed it, and then you would mask these together, and they would go on, like, say, a truck or something like that, because this company mostly did fleet graphics. And this guy was connected because he had accounts with Big. He had accounts with Cape Cod, that potato chip company, Campbell's Chunky. accounts with Campbell's Chunky. Charmin? Toilet tissue? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, he was connected. So, anyways, I guess they were talking to everybody, and they told me, oh, somebody heard you say something. I made a joke. And the thing is, when you make jokes, before you make a joke, consider your audience. I made a joke that I just thought was funny about the internet because I had heard a lot of stories about people getting, people finding out how to do all kinds of nefarious things online, which I thought was just insane that all these people were finding out. They were saying, this is back when they were really working on controlling the internet, like right after, this is like 2001 or so. Yeah. And they were already really ringing in the reins in some ways because they were planting all these stories about how dangerous it was. I made a joke about it. I thought people would get, but a lot of people don't get my sense of humor. So I had to talk to the feds. Now, when they showed up, they had a file like that on me. Like that? When I talked to them, I had literally only been in trouble once when I was underage, for underage drinking. I had a little bit, 90 days, 6 months probation. Not a big deal. It was unsupervised, by the way. And I don't even remember if I had gotten that arrest yet. The arrest might have came later. They had a file like that, a big old file. Opened up that file, and I see, and they're not showing me, but they're opening up, and they're just checking some things. They're looking at notes, and I mean, I'm kind of eyeballing what they got on me. In there? Oh, everything. You want to know what they've got on you in those files? Try everything. They do. In that case, look, what are you going to do? I made a decision to talk to them. First off, yeah, I was innocent. Does every innocent person get off by talking to the cops? No. But you got to remember, first off, these weren't cops. These were feds. Two guys showing up, black suits, serious looking. And I decided to go outside. They asked me if I would come out. And I decided to go out and talk to them. And as they started questioning me, because what they did is they didn't tell me what was going on, but they started questioning me. Do you know this? Did you say? I was completely honest with them. At this point in time and with this particular situation, I really thought total honesty would be a really good idea. I thought it would probably be a really bad idea in the long run to not be completely honest. First off, I hadn't done anything wrong. I made a bad judgment to tell an off-color joke to people with sticks up their asses. My bad. So, make of that what you will. Now, third time. This is where we start getting into something that's very important. Third time. A lot of time had gone by now. Okay? A lot of time had gone by. The third time, we're talking about 2007, 2008. 6-7 years had gone by. Something that was a problematic addiction when I got to Florida. Because here's the thing. At that time, in Florida, I moved to Florida. I was messing around with some things back in Indiana. And don't think that's why the marriage ended, because I was not alone. So what happened was I moved down to Florida, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, I'm going to get down here and things are going to be really, like, they're going to be different. I won't have the same people around, be able to get this, that, and the other. And what happens was, I don't think I was there for like 2 weeks. 3 weeks. And I got T-boned on a very busy street. It was real busy. It was one of those, it goes through town, but it's super busy. And it's kind of a main thoroughfare. So even though there's lights, it's like my street that I live on now. Even though there's lights, people come off those lights fast. They're going at least 55 plus. And there's businesses along there. I went to a McDonald's to buy a couple burgers. And this one in particular, there was a hill just off to the left as you had to pull out. And there was a big truck. Now I remember. First off, there were people parked. There were spaces where you could park. And then there was a guy, a big truck, a tractor trailer. But the left lane was open. And I'm sitting there waiting. And the guy waves me out. He's a truck driver. He should know what he's talking about. He waves me out. I come out. I mean, as soon as I come out, I see this freaking car, man, just barreling over this hill. I don't think the truck driver saw him. Honest to God, I think that he waved me out, and then I started going. It was probably too late, because he probably saw this car coming. It was probably a bad idea with that hill being so close for him to do that, but, and this kid was going fast. So I get T-boned. Anyways, pretty bad. Definitely messed up my spine and neck pretty good for a long time. Well, here's the thing. I had pretty good insurance, auto insurance at that time. So they just tell me, like, I go from the hospital, give me a little treatment, put me on the board. Those are uncomfortable, especially if you've been in an accident and they strap you to that board. And then they tell me, here's a doctor you can go see, or here's a few or whatever. So I go to see this one, just like out of the blue, is random. I don't even know if anybody recommended him. Just random. He's right there in town, easy to get to. Well, the same exact drugs in the same exact form as I was having trouble with in Indiana before all of this happened. That was one of the things he dispensed. It turns out he was a dispensing doctor. And that's kind of a Florida thing I never saw in Indiana. I don't know if they have that in Indiana, but in Florida they did. You could go to the doctor, and he would keep a certain amount of common drugs that he would prescribe in his office. They had a special part of the office in this big steel locked up cabinet, and they kept just tons. And I know because I've seen the cabinet, because we became pretty friendly. I mean, I saw that whole place a number of times. I knew what was going on there. But this is at first. Anyhow, so that didn't change anything going to Florida. So, fast forward 6-7 years. Everything has changed, of course. I'm back up here, ex-wife and daughter, still in Florida. Lots of bad times with that situation have passed. I'm still using. I'm still depressed. Life sucks. There's no answers for me. So, anyways, I did something bad. And now I've already been charged and convicted for it. So I was, at the time, suspected of a series of thefts. And they were thefts off of a bank card. It was a type of a bank card that I had slipped from somebody who didn't know that I had taken it. Not happy about this. Not proud of it in any way, but I was really, really far gone as far as addiction and the way I was thinking and living. Way gone. Now, I took a lot of money from that card at a lot of places for a while. Now, I was living in a different place, in a different county, when they caught up with all this. Sometime after I got wind that things were going to start coming down the pike, they had no warrant, and I was contacted by a detective from the county of origin, which is Porter County. That's where I've done most jail time, most of it. So he says, look, they're not detectives. Detectives want to build a case very fast. They want to build a case very fast, very little effort. They have tactics that they use to help them do this. Anybody who's seen like any of these shows where, like, for instance, they'll have suspects for like a murder or something like that, and the way that they get most of their convictions is they get a confession in the first couple of days. That's when you need to really get it, because after that first couple of days, if you don't got somebody confessing, you don't have something strong, it goes very cold very fast. There are more propaganda shows on television and cable television and movies and all of that try to convince everybody that they have all of these methods for tracking down and finding, they'll get you because they've got all of these methods and they're on top of it and they're Johnny on the spot and they're so smart, and they're not, and none of that stuff is all that true at all. Now, I mean, a lot of times they can get you, depending on what evidence they have and everything, but funny thing about evidence too, these are things they don't tell you. The great majority of any kind of charge that they're trying to pin on somebody, the overwhelming majority of those charges, they get a conviction on because the person tells on themselves in some way or another. Huge amount of convictions they get. Now, I'm not saying that a lot of people who are in penitentiary for this, that, and the other told on themselves. You'd be surprised, though, a lot of guys I've known who've done a lot of time, and a lot of time for big stuff, messed up and told on themselves. But I'm not specifically talking about those people. I'm talking about conviction rates that a prosecutor gets. Because it comes down to that. You know what the detective's trying to do? They're trying to make this case that they can hand off, give an affidavit, maybe to a judge so they can get a warrant, they can get arrest, the prosecutor can get a conviction. It's a meat grinder. It's a system. So most of that they're going to get it through people telling on themselves. They're going to get a lot of it through snitches. People telling on each other. More than anything, more than legwork, thinking. They don't have to do it that often. They lean on somebody who doesn't know their rights, somebody who's green. And I still was by this time. Remember, I hadn't been in any real trouble. Really. Couple of things, still pretty innocent. Or what they'll do is they'll get snitches. People will turn other people in. They'll wear a wire. They'll wear camera on a medallion, on buttons, on a hat or something, and a wire. I've had it done to me. I don't know. Now, yes, rapists and child molesters, usually what we would call chomos in county, those are very low forms of life. Those are very, very, very low forms of life, those people. But I'll tell you, a very, very close second is the snitch, who will absolutely ruin somebody else's life or multiple people's lives just to get out of their own shit that they created for themselves. But anyways, so this detective, he gets a hold of me. Like, well, he got a hold of people I was staying with one way or another, and because he's trying to make some calls to figure out where I am, because I don't have, at that time, I didn't have like a specific stated address or anything. So he gets hold of them. I think he manages to get their house number. He calls them, and he tells me, he says, look, there's this situation about this and this card and everything, and I just want to talk to him. Tell him I just want him to come in, and we'll talk about it. Now, he kind of, when he talked to my brother, I was living with my brother. He talked to him, he kind of made it seem sort of like it was sort of safe. Like, you know, we are kind of suspicious. These things happened here. We want to talk to him. We want him to come in and, you know, give us a statement. Which I was very hesitant to do. Now, when I talked to him, he assured me, first off, he said this. He said, there is no warrant on you. See, that's important. Because he wants me to give him a statement. If I give him a statement and if I admit guilt, no problem. They'll put that in to a judge, give an affidavit to a judge. A judge will swear out a warrant, and they got me. And then they use all of that stuff to convict me. I go in, takes me to a room, comfortable. He does all of those psych things that people tell you that they do psychologically. The room, it was kind of an open room. It was small, but it was very open. It was at the municipal police station of the city. That was the county seat of Porter County, Valparaiso. Might as well just say it. Takes me into an office. It is an office. It's got, you know, glass windows, got glass pane in the door. He opens the door. He sits at a desk facing the wall. He seats me in the chair by the door. Nobody's going to keep you here. He's not going to keep me here. It's nothing like that. So what he says is, yeah, he reminds me, it's no warrant. It's no warrant. It's just, it's being investigated. And this was very good, what he did psychologically. He told me that he was looking at me and the woman that I was living with at the time. He said, yeah, we're looking at her. We're looking at you. Don't know what else there is, but he threw that in there. And when I realized, okay, there's a possibility they may charge her, and at that time, and she's total straight, you know, arrow. That was when I said, okay, this isn't good. This isn't good. And I said, listen, how does the court look at a confession? Oh, he says, I'll tell you, you know, if there's a confession here, if there's something, if you had something to do with this, and they're never going to be aggressive, but it's a tactic. This is all a tactic to get what they want. Remember, all these guys, the police, the detectives, everybody, they are using tactics on you. Every second they're talking to you, they are using a tactic on you. He says, yeah, I mean, if you have something to confess, he said, I can tell you, a confession in my report, a free confession, openly, from you, that looks very good. The judges take very kind notice of something like that. Bullshit. I'm telling you, bullshit. And I can prove it because it happened a few other times. So no, I found out, it was a couple of weeks after that, where I told on myself. I confessed. I said, yeah, I did this, I took this. She had nothing to do, no knowledge, because that was my purpose at that time, was to absolutely convince him that this other person had no knowledge of this. Do not look at this person. They had nothing to do with it. And I have to wonder if they clock you as somebody who's kind of a stand-up guy, especially if there's a woman involved and it's somebody who you are romantically involved with or whatever, if that is also a tactic they use to get a confession out of you, maybe even if you're not guilty, just to, because they think you're going to do or say something in a protective mode. That was a bad idea. I should have never went and seen him. They didn't have anything. Listen, if they had anything, because he told me, this, that, and the other, and they said, the card was used here and there, and there's going to be, camera records and all of that. I said, oh, okay, well, I don't know anything about it. I suppose you're going to know when you get the evidence, and then you'll know, and I don't want to talk about it. I wouldn't have even said that. Nope. Bad idea. And now some people can say, well, you were guilty. Yeah. A lot of people are guilty of a lot of things. Some of the most honest guards I ever met inside jails, like pretty good people that were respectful, they would tell you that too. They would say, and they wouldn't broadcast it, but they'd say, the only difference between you and me, you got caught doing something. And that's true, because there's plenty of guards who end up on the unfavored side of the law, because not every guard is in any way, shape, or form connected. And they get on, a disfavored list or something, and they could end up in there too. And I've seen it. Saw a prison guard end up in a municipal jail. I've seen police end up in jails and prisons. And I mean, that's usually PC, but, it happens. So I'm almost at an hour. And here's the thing. I've got one other time that I got arrested, that the cops tried talking to me, and Drug Task Force came to me. And this is an interesting story all in and of itself, but what happened between what I was just telling you and the series of events that occurred after that, because I ended up going to jail. I ended up, after 30 days, getting probation and some other things. And then a lot happened between then, because I did not stop doing what I was doing. I did not stop using and copying and doing the hustles that I had to do to keep using and copying and so on and so forth. That it led to a diversionary program. And then after that, there was the arrest with the Drug Task Force, them coming to me, and some crazy stuff that happened in jail. And then the things that happened during that diversionary program called Porter County's Drug. I want to say it was the technical name, Porter County's Drug and Alcohol Prevention Court. It was a long name. We just called it Drug Court. But like I said, I'm at about an hour. So what I'll do is I'm going to wrap this. And I'm going to do another one, just like a part 2 of, talking to the cops, interacting with the cops, talking to basically any agent or officer of the city, county, state, or federal government, essentially, and how that usually goes, or how it went for me. So that's it for today's therapy session. I hope you guys get something out of it too. And if you do, I think it's implied, but share it with other people that you think will get something out of it. Everybody knows. Like and subscribe. I'll even put like a little bug on there. Either way. So until next time, I hope everybody takes care of themselves and each other and is very well. We'll see you.